Hi, everyone. Welcome back to yet another show of Reinventing Finance. With me today is, as usual, my co-host, Tom. Tom, how are you today?
I'm very fine and very much looking forward to our conversation.
And as usual, it's not just Tom and myself in our little virtual echo chamber. We're very pleased to invite or have one Winnie Wong as a guest on our show. Hi, Winnie. How are you today?
Hi, great. Thank you. Thank you, Nick and Tom.
It's probably not a fine morning. I don't know exactly the time difference, but whereabouts in the world are you dialing in today?
I'm in Hong Kong. It's 4:50 in the afternoon.
Okay. So Winnie, I guess for those of our guests who might not yet know who you are, why don't you just briefly introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Sure, Nicholas. I'm Winnie. I am based in Hong Kong. Currently, I'm running two insurance companies. As you can tell from my virtual background, Asia Insurance is the biggest local composite insurer in Hong Kong, as well as one of the top 10 general insurers here. And we have the longest history with over 60 years of solid and profitable growth track record in Hong Kong. We focus on B2B business, and we are also a shareholder of a number of insurance companies as well as reinsurance companies across different Asian countries. And the second one, Avo, the avocado, it's the first virtual general insurer in Hong Kong starting 3 years ago in 2019. It's an InsurTech startup, and we focus on B2C as well as B2B2C online business. We target at bringing lots of innovative insurance products and solutions and a simple and straightforward insurance buying journey and claim experience to our customers.
Thank you so much. I guess the first question is Avo a subsidiary of Asia Insurance, like that digital direct insurer? Is that what it is?
It's a joint venture. We have other shareholders as well, but the largest shareholder is Asia Insurance. That's why I'm running both.
And what are the other shareholders?
The other two shareholders include Hill House Capital. It's a PE, a very large PE firm. And the third shareholder is Two Sigma from the US, which is a leading data analytics company. And I think one of the largest in the world too. So they bring different expertise and knowledge to us.
This might be over-interpreting something. I just felt there were a couple of kind of joint venture stories from Asia that just resonate really well. That it's not just one company. I want to own everything the way most European insurance companies try to. It's like this is mine. Whereas at least what I glean is that collaboration, strategic partnerships at the outset of a venture seems to be more common practice in Asia. Is that a fair assessment, or would you say such a joint venture is quite unique in what you pulled off for Asia Insurance and Avo?
I think for a lot of the startups, it's very common to have different rounds of fundraising, and they bring together different shareholders and investors. For us, in forming the joint venture, we want to focus on identifying the shareholders with a common vision and a long-term commitment, because we understand insurance is very long-term. So we don't want to have a wide range of investors with different expectations and different understanding of insurance. So for the three shareholders that we have identified, we know they can bring different expertise to us, like on data analytics, insurance, as well as on tech. So I think that would be a very good combination in forming the JV.
And I I mean, it almost sounds so simple. It's like, yes, shareholders should have a shared vision, shared incentives, but it isn't, right? So what is it? What is your shared vision? What is it that unites you? What does success look like for you as a company, for you as the CEO personally? Anything you can share?
Yeah, of course, we have different shareholders and slightly different expectations as well. Maybe I can talk about both, just for your
Please.
interest. Yes, of course, for Asia Insurance is a very mature, well-established insurance company, and we need different strategies to support our different vision, mission, and values. For Asia Insurance, we focus on B2B business and corporate clients through insurance intermediaries, including brokers and agents, as well as banking and life insurance partners. And I think our diversification and consistent services work really well. We have achieved record high results in the past 4 consecutive years for both top line and bottom line. So I think that's definitely something that we are quite proud of in terms of the track record we managed to achieve, despite the challenges brought by the pandemic. And for Arvo, which is very different, it focuses on B2C and B2B2C business with the objective of helping customers live a fruitful life. The fruit is our slogan, and we try to integrate insurance into people's everyday life and bridge the protection gap and achieve better financial inclusion, especially on some untapped segments, as well as underserved segments and white space opportunities, like the younger segment, as well as the InsurTech segments, the tech savvy segments.
So when it was interesting, we had another conversation also about protection gap in Europe. There it was a lot about climate change. It was about cyber. How do you, but it was also from a P&C, so it was kind of property casualty risks. What do you think are the top 3 protection gaps that you've spotted? And maybe you've already answered, but is it health insurance of young people? What are the 3 major protection gaps, and how do you intend to bridge them? What have you found works for you?
Yes, I did mention part of it, the younger segment who are not aware of the importance of insurance yet. So we find that it's something that we can start educating them and helping them more on. And that's why we roll out a lot of innovative insurance products that are more appealing to them. For example, we have e-wallet insurance, we have COVID insurance, we have work from home insurance, things like that. So that will be highly relevant to the younger and the tech savvy segments. And health insurance is another area which is quite big in our part of the world, because we notice that a lot of people are only finding insurance important when they're getting older. But then when they're getting older and they retire from their work, they don't have the company plans to protect them, and they find it too expensive to buy the individual policies for themselves. And very often they have pre-existing illnesses that they are not able to buy insurance cover. So I think it's definitely another big area. And that's why in the past few years, we can see that our government, and as well as a lot of governments in China, in Asia, are trying to promote and support the health, commercial health insurance, and try to achieve better penetration among at the individual level. So I think that's another key area. And that's why you can see a lot of tax incentives. Say in Hong Kong, we have a lot of tax incentives. If you buy health insurance, then you can have tax deductions. So I think that's something that the government are trying to support too.
Is it then fair to say that as Asia Insurance, you talked a lot about growth, stability, top line, bottom line, that you almost want to be a dividend stock for your shareholders. I don't know, are you stock listed? That's ultimately what you intend to provide, stability. Whilst with Avo, it is it's more innovative. That there seems to be is that a fair assessment, that or have I missed anything from what you've said?
Yeah, I think your understanding is quite correct. For Asia Insurance is mature. It's like a, well-established insurance company. While Avo is a startup, we haven't achieved the break-even point yet, but we achieved a lot of partnership opportunities where we are able to get the insurance messages across so that they understand how insurance can be integrated into the everyday life of their customers or their members. And that's why I mentioned that apart from B2C business, we have a lot of B2B2C partnership deals with banks, with a lot of the retail partners. We launched shoe insurance with a big retailer, and also we launched COVID insurance as a CSR effort to donate the cover to all the hospital staff who helped to fight the pandemic. So I think there are a lot of creative ideas that we can really develop and put them into develop them into insurance solutions, and it's much quicker for us to reach the market as an InsurTech firm, because all the tech and all the tech development and everything are done in-house instead of outsourcing. So the whole product development cycle is much quicker for us.
May I ask you what, because I like the combination of, on the one hand, let's say you have this startup environment, and on the other hand, you have this more established environment, and most of the time people are only doing one of both. But in your situation, it's let's say, I would like to ask, what are the learnings in your startup environment on the one hand, and are there learnings you are able to also apply in your more established environment?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of learning, of course, from Asia Insurance. There are a lot of very good industry practices that Avo can learn from. And those are something that is very important from the regulators' perspective. And that's why I think regulators are very comfortable that we have very solid shareholders who understand insurance and understand how to run an insurance company, which is a highly regulated industry. So I think that part is important. Well, at the same time, I think for Asia Insurance colleagues, they can also understand a lot more about how to develop products based on clients' needs and how we can innovate it through technology. And that's why at Asia Insurance, we also embarked on the digital transformation journey some 3 years ago. And we now are able to launch a lot of service platforms online for our customers. So I think it's a cross-fertilization for both, and it's a very good synergy for us.
Thank you.
Would you, because I think that makes a lot of sense, and I would say that I would expect any strategy consultant who's worth their dime would put exactly those bullets when advising of why an incumbent should have a startup. Maybe is there one thing that, or can you give a concrete example where you say, unless you've had the privilege of being in both situations, you probably would have made a different call whilst your role at Avo or your role at Asia Insurance Company? Do you have like a concrete example where you said, if I didn't wear both hats, I probably would have made a different decision? So it becomes just a little bit more tangible for me.
I think it would be something that is the art of striking a balance between innovation and this is actually a very difficult question. Yeah, a different learning. So I think definitely, I think we had the right strategy of a different brand with different market positioning, targeting at different market segments. At Asia Insurance, we have a lot of insurance intermediaries that we have to work with. But then at Avo, it's purely online, it's B2C, and products are definitely more on personal products. So very different positioning, very different strategies and business models. So for me, definitely, I think it complements very well in terms of our distribution channel and in terms of our diversification strategy as well. So I think that's been working really well.
So not only do you run two insurance companies with, I would imagine, different, well, clear distribution channels, products, probably different talent, I would imagine. You also are the chairman of the Hong Kong Federation of Insurers. So just how many hours does your day have? Because they seem to
you 24 hours. But I have very good teams. I'm lucky to have very good teams at different companies, as well as very capable secretariats. They are the Federation of Insurers. Yeah.
So what is it that you what is the Hong Kong Federation of Insurers, what's their goal, and why do you decided to also support that initiative? You seem to have everything going for you. Why even bother with the federation?
Maybe I can give you a little bit more background about the insurance industry in Hong Kong.
Please.
I have to say we are the most crowded market in the world in terms of having over 160 insurance companies in just such a small city. We have far more insurance companies than all our neighboring countries in Asia. So I think it's unbelievable. It shows that it's important to have an association, a federation that can represent a concerted voice of the entire industry, because there's so many players, including insurers, reinsurers, as well as captive insurers, and life and non-life, etc. So it's very important to have a Hong Kong FI, such a federation, to represent our member companies. We want to bring that voice, single voice to the market, and build Hong Kong into a leading insurance hub in Asia Pacific. Of course, we also encourage the adoption of best practices and exchange of ideas among our member companies. And that's why we provide a lot of training programs, including a lot of InsurTech and tech-related training programs and sharing sessions among our member companies. And we also promote the proper protection of our consumers to foster public trust and build confidence in our industry. And of course, we also raise public awareness on the value and benefits of insurance. And to give you some solid examples on what we have been doing in recent years on the InsurTech area, we launched an award-winning blockchain-enabled and AI-driven platform to help combat insurance fraud. That would definitely require concerted industry-wide effort in doing it, and Hong Kong FI can play such a role. Otherwise, if all insurers are doing their own thing and build their own platform without exchange of information, then it can never happen. And insurance fraud is something that we want to deal with for the entire industry. And we have also got an InsurTech task force for promoting and supporting InsurTech activities in our industry. So I think we've been doing a lot in supporting our member companies and supporting the development of InsurTech too. So it's very, very worthwhile. doing this voluntarily. Actually, this year I've been elected as their chairman, and I think it's they have a long history, and every year we roll out different initiatives for our member companies, and a lot of the initiatives that we roll out in recent years require concerted efforts among our member companies. And as you can imagine, it's so diverse, and we have so many players in Hong Kong. We need a single entity to take the lead in doing it.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I would like to ask you, because let's say you have I think a pretty good overview of also those different call it InsurTech hubs or ecosystems around the world. Could you perhaps share with us a little bit those differences from your perspective? So on the one hand, you have, let's say, all those American companies who always discuss about lemonade, etc. And then you have we from a European perspective, and then you have Asia with Ping An and all those other big companies. What are, from your perspective, the biggest differences?
Biggest difference. I think the first thing that is very different is the regulatory environment. Of course, you know, you are a lot more familiar with the European and probably the US regulatory environment. In Hong Kong, we have a very business-friendly regulator. The Insurance Authority was set up a couple of years ago. Before that, we had a self-regulatory system in Hong Kong. But this regulator, the reason why we say that it's very pro-business is because they were set up with a mandate of regulating the industry as well as promoting and developing the industry. So they are able to strike a fine balance between regulating as well as promoting the industry. So they are very approachable. I have to say that helps us to come up with new ideas, and they roll out the sandbox a couple years ago together with the fast track application of virtual licenses. And that's why we were one of the first to apply for the license. And so far there are four virtual insurer licenses in Hong Kong, 2 life and 2 non-life. And apart from that, we have sandboxes. So the sandbox help to approve some of the ideas that haven't been fully tested, or we haven't got a regulatory regime to govern it yet, but we are able to test it within a defined scope or timeline. So far, quite a lot of insurance companies, including my companies, also submitted some sandbox applications and got quite speedy approval to really test it in the market. So I think this is one significant difference. And the second big difference is, I have to say that it's the commercialization opportunities. We're talking about different markets when you talk about the US market. And of course, for Hong Kong, we are closer to the Asian market as well as across the border with the mainland Chinese market. And in recent years, we've been talking about the Greater Bay Area opportunities. Greater Bay Areas include 9 cities in southern China, as well as 2 special administrative regions. The 2 special administrative regions include Hong Kong and Macau, and we have 1 country, 2 systems. So totally different legal systems that we can continue to enjoy, while there are a lot of opportunities to tap into the Greater Bay Area markets in China. And the Greater Bay Area has a total population of 86 million and a combined GDP of 12.6 trillion RMB, that is about 1.84 trillion euro. It accounts for about 11% of the national GDP of China. And in the recent few years, we have rolled out different Connect schemes like Bond Connect, Stock Connect, ETF Connect, Wealth Management Connect, and we're talking about Insurance Connect as well. The whole idea is to try to integrate the markets so that we have a bigger commercialization opportunity. We're not confining ourselves to the Hong Kong market alone with 7-8 million population, but we can commercialize it, connect it with the mainland China market with much bigger target customer base. to work on. So I think that that's amazing, and that's something that has been working quite well for a lot of the other connects, and we are working on the insurance connect as well.
Thank you.
What type of let's say capital or shareholders did such a business-friendly environment attract? Is there a lot of foreign direct investment? Is this more regional? Just to give roughly a split of who goes after this opportunity.
Well, actually, it's from everywhere.
Okay.
A lot of foreign direct investments, a lot of investments from Hong Kong, a lot of foreign firms set up their footprint in Hong Kong and tap into the opportunities in the Greater Bay Area. So yeah, we can see that a lot of these are happening right now. And a lot of mainland Chinese firms are also coming to Hong Kong to set up their regional headquarters or sending senior executives to Hong Kong, trying to expand into Southeast Asia. So Hong Kong is a very good window for them to do that, because we've got a different legal system, a very pro-business regulator, as well as a lot of the support on professional services, especially the financial market as well. The Hong Kong as an international financial center with a lot of listing activities happening in Hong Kong and financing activities happening in Hong Kong. So all these are making the city so vibrant in terms of the development of InsurTech activities. In fact, we have over 600 InsurTech fintech firms in Hong Kong now. Of course, I think probably 15 to 20% are InsurTech, but then the entire fintech environment is very vibrant. And a lot of them are in our cyberport in Hong Kong. They are the incubator for a lot of incubation programs. And the government has also provided a lot of fundings around InsurTech and fintech. They gave a lot of different funding schemes to support us.
So we all have to move to Hong Kong then as entrepreneurs.
You should, yes. I really want you to consider.
Are there a lot of let's say foreign entrepreneurs who also, let's say, move to Hong Kong?
Yeah, you know what? I just had lunch with my ex-colleague from the Netherlands.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, he's been in Hong Kong for quite some years now, and he's on trade credit insurance. He just told me, well, he likes Hong Kong and he wants to continue to be based in Hong Kong, even though they had a big debate on where they should be based. But he's traveling quite extensively in the region, and Hong Kong is a very convenient location for him to travel because he covers Asia Pacific.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say, what can we learn from each other? And I guess a way for me to kind of phrase that, so we kind of get away from the normal bullet points, right? Is if you were to imagine that you had to advise, I don't know, a European CEO of an insurance company and your friends. And of course, you don't really know exactly their setup, etc., right? But from what you've learned and what you've seen in Asia, what would be some hypotheses that you would bring over and say, listen, this worked really well for us. I think you should try this as well. Do you have some, and we do talk about trade secrets here as well, if you care to share. But, is there something that you would suggest that colleague or friend?
Yeah. If you're talking about, say, a colleague or expatriate from, say, Europe, I would have to say that there are actually a lot that we can learn from each other. And of course, there are a lot of learning that from Asia that we can make reference to. If you're talking about, say, a colleague or an insurer from Europe, I think they normally have lots of technical expertise and deep industry know-how accumulated from the long history of insurance and reinsurance in the European countries. And in Asia, I would say it's the ability and the agility to innovate and to scale up capitalizing on the amazing commercialization opportunities in the markets that I just mentioned. I think a lot of the regulators and the governments here in our country, our governments or jurisdiction, they're able to come up with some opportunities to foster the development of, say, fintech, insurtech. As I said, they come up with different funding schemes. Even for the young graduates, they are willing to give them some funding to start their own business. I sit on the steering committee. I think it's very risky for the government to do that. We give them 3 million each, as long as they come up with a proposal to build their own startup. But then we still made the decision to go ahead. We want them to learn how to start their own business. We know the successful rate is very, very low. We still want to support them to learn. So I think it shows the commitment of the government in supporting startups, supporting our younger segment to grow and to try on areas that they haven't tried before. So I think that's something that is quite amazing.
And conversely, would there be any areas of advice or expertise where you would say, where you would ask, let's say let's just keep it, a European seasoned executive to tell you his or her tricks on, what worked in, European or UK markets?
Yeah, well, actually, I think that, as I said, there's a lot of exchange of best practices that are happening, and a lot of cross-fertilization, given the different expertise, different background of insurers or practitioners in different countries. In fact, in Asia, in Hong Kong in particular, I think we are using quite a lot of the services from InsurTech startups from Europe too. I just mentioned that at HKFI, we have an award-winning platform to combat insurance fraud. We actually use a blockchain service provider from France. So I think it's we love to use these InsurTech partners from other countries as well, as long as they have relevant expertise and experience and a solid track record in delivering the result we want to see. So a lot of cross-learning that I am seeing and happening in the market for us. So I don't think there are particular areas that we are very good at. I think it's more around the insurance regulatory environment and the business environment that is very different. So that's why I think for Asia now it's great opportunity to tap into the commercialization opportunities, while the government and the regulators are so supportive. So and that's why I think it's great timing. It's all about timing, and it's very good timing to develop in our market right now. Yeah.
One of the themes of DIA is climate change, ESG, sustainable insurance. I prefer the word enkelfähig. It's a German word, but basically encapsulate the social, ecological and kind of future aspects, plus value generating in one word. Now in Europe, at least from my vantage point, the atrocities in Ukraine have put energy at everyone's mind, much more so than it was in the beginning of February. Now I would just like to understand, in your view, what is the role that insurance can or should play in, helping us avert disaster, for our children's sake?
Yeah, that's a very good question and very important question. I just spoke at a conference invited by a reinsurer on sustainability. So I think for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, as outlined by the United Nations, it's very wide in terms of the scope that we need to cover, and they're all important areas to cover. I think insurers can play a very unique role, while on the one hand, we are taking and underwriting a lot of these risks like climate changes, cyber risks, and all that. And but then at the same time, since we are taking and underwriting this risk, we are in a unique position in making effort to foster some positive changes into the practices of our clients. For example, if our clients are insuring a property or risk or construction policy with us, if they have something being damaged, how are they going to rebuild it, and to what sustainability standards that they should rebuild their building to? And I think that there are somehow some different insurance terms that we can introduce in our policies, so that we can foster some positive changes on sustainability. It's a very unique role that we can play, say on agriculture insurance, what kind of terms that we can introduce so that we can foster some changes in the practices. It's doable, but I think it has to be one more concerted effort. There are a lot of different stakeholders in the process, not just direct insurers. We have reinsurers, and we have the clients, the brokers, agents, and the consultants, and all that. And the client, and of course, they have to buy into it, and then support the common goal and sustainability. And on the other hand, I think it's a journey. As I said, it's very wide in terms of the scope. We have to start now, if we haven't, but then it requires everybody to play a part, and it's a journey that everyone should play a part. And I think there are top-down as well as bottom-up approaches that we can do to make it happen. For top-down approaches, of course, it includes the regulators' guidelines, as well as the listing rules, something like that, the laws and all that. And then bottom-up approaches at our level, we can introduce some environmentally friendly practices at our workplace and all that. And I think a lot of education and training can be done bottom-up as well. So yeah, it is a journey, but we all have an important part to play. But the insurers have a particularly unique part to play, I believe.
I would like to add, because you have so multiple roles, about, let's say, also the active role of the state. Because let's say you are also talking about the Hong Kong Federation of Insurers and the supportive role of the government. Just to take this one example, if you just see the development of, for instance, high-speed trains in China, and you see what kind of disaster we have in Europe, because we're not able to build this kind of trains, although the distances are often much shorter. Are there any examples, let's say, from the insurance field where the state plays a strong role and asks or discusses with you certain topics? Because let's say, if you talk about climate change, and we all already know those risks, you could also argue that the state should take the initiative and then discuss with the big insurance companies, how shall we solve this? And are there any practical examples you could mention?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think at the government level, they have a very crucial part to play, particularly for those countries that are very top-down, like in China. In fact, they are quite ahead in terms of introducing the environmentally friendly practices and sustainability goals. They can introduce some legal requirements very quickly, and with top-down approach, to make it happen. So in fact, they are quite ahead. I can give you an example, and I believe it's definitely early days, more than 10 years ago. They have already introduced compulsory requirements for some of the major facilities like airports and marine ports and things like that to buy compulsory environmental impairment liability insurance. it's for a lot of the other countries, they haven't even started, but then they started quite early in terms of introducing this compulsory requirement. And the result of it is, of course, people's awareness has been significantly increased in terms of the potential damage to the environment and the need to have an insurance policy to ensure that the risk is properly transferred. And of course, insurers would introduce a lot of risk management best practices to these clients to ensure that they have environmentally friendly policies and guidelines. And on the other hand, I think it also helps to develop a lot of these suppliers on waste treatment, on pollution control, on ESG, etc. So I think there are quite a lot of these suppliers because of the top-down legal requirements that they have introduced in China. So we can see that there is an area that we are having a lot more investment in, because as an insurers, we are also an investor. We invest in a bigger portion on green bonds, as well as ESG funds and all that.
Okay, interesting.
We had a recent discussion also about that topic, and it was influenced by a French economist that stated that on the asset side, it's all fair and square that we invest in, I don't know, existing renewable energy wind parks. But actually, you buying shares in an existing wind park is not actually going to help the environment, because the wind park already exists. So what the economist said was, well, actually, it needs to be additional. So it needs to invest in new wind parks, in new, projects on top of what we already have. And the answer of our other guest was, yeah, but the regulator kind of punishes that because the asset is more risky, and thus you have to have more more capital behind it. Are there similar mechanisms at play in Hong Kong, or is this also a way where a business-friendly, forward-looking, impact-driven regulator is actually looking at it potentially from a more holistic point of view, and to say, no, we actually want you to invest your assets, what's obviously protecting, your policyholders, but your assets into additional investments that help us pave a way to a, more sustainable future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are more and more such requirements for, of course, listed entities to start with, and we are a listed entity as well. Our holding company is listed in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So that's why we have to have increasing focus on impact investment. And of course, the regulators are also focusing a lot on avoiding greenwashing. So exactly like what you mentioned, we have to identify and understand those are really helping the environment instead of just being greenwashing. So of course, that would involve a lot of education and learning, because we are not experts in those fields, right? We have to ask more questions about the investment assets to understand more details about whether they are really supporting the environment. A lot of learning in the process, but I think it's a good start given the top-down approach from the regulators, from the listing entities as well. So for insurers, of course, for multinational firms, they are having a lot of focus on it already, given the headquarters requirements and all that. But then for local firms, since again, at the Hong Kong FI level, we are doing a lot in educating our customers. And recently we also engaged a consultant to help us to work on potentially supporting the regulator on an ESG guideline that is going to be developed for the entire insurance industry in Hong Kong. So there will be some standards, some guidelines that we can make reference to, and that will be a lot more helpful. And then we will provide a lot of training sessions to support them and to guide them to, to embark on this journey. So that's why we provide a lot of support to our SME insurers in Hong Kong too.
I mean, unfortunately, not unfortunately, again, I think fortunately, we're running out of time because this is supposed to be a teaser for the DIA.
Oh.
You know, if everything, you know, could have been said that needs to be discussed and that should be discussed in an hour, you know, that would be a shame, because we are looking forward to meeting you and others, enthusiasts, you know, in Munich. So I think it's good that we ran out of time because we can pick up where we left off. But kind of from you personally, what are you looking forward to at DIA? What are you looking to get out of it?
I think at different levels. From my personal company level, we would definitely like to meet as many partners as possible. Lining up partnerships is a big part of what we do. And so I think the networking part is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. And from the Hong Kong advice level, actually, as I said, I've been talking to Roger on the possibility of bringing DIA to Hong Kong. So I think that's something that we should continue our discussion on. And if DIA is going to be in Hong Kong, then we need to learn how to make it happen in Hong Kong. So like the podcast that you are arranging right now, I think that's very professionally done. And so a lot of things to learn in my different capacities, other capacities. And of course, Invest Hong Kong wants me to make sure that the European audience has a better understanding about the Hong Kong market. So I said, okay, I'll come. So I think that's the reason I'm going to join DIA. And
awesome. No, I think
multiple reasons for joining the DIA.
I think you've touched a nerve there. I believe, there is something about that unfortunately only experience can teach you. And it's just so different when you've, been there, done that, and you've actually walked the talk. And so I'm always drawn towards exactly those personalities. And I think that, your opinion and their opinion just holds more weight than someone, who just talks, as a bystander. Listen, Winnie, thank you so much for taking the time. And we are both very much looking forward to meeting you in person in Munich. We wish you safe travels. Have a good time until then. And looking forward to continue this conversation face to face.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Tom. Look forward to seeing you both.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.